Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 133. I hope I got that correct. Of Bloody Thumbs podcast. I did. Yep. I did. It was one of those things. So thank you all for joining us. We're recording this on. Normally we don't say what days we're recording this, but might as well. For April 26, 2013. As always, I am Splinter 47. You should know, at least. That's my alternate ego. I go by Splinter sometimes. I sometimes even use that name for a variety of accounts. Why? I don't know. That it's the internet name that gets stuck with you. You know how back in the olden days, back when we had dial-up, when we first got our first computer, like you got this massive behemoth of a monitor, and you had this also behemoth size of a tower. And then once you start off your very own first account online, you're like, all right, let me pick something nice. Something's going to be stick with me for the rest of my life. And if it's something that doesn't work, I'm going to switch off to something else. But you know, Splinter 47 stuck with me for many years, and I go by that name. That's my alternate name. I might have that added onto my driver's license, to be honest with you. So, other than that little tangent I had, I'm also joined by my co-host extraordinaire, CH to the motherfucking Gorog. I'm going to start making that trending. I don't know how we could do this to make this a household thing, because it's not very PC, you know. No, it is not. But then again, who gives a damn about PC friendliness? How's everyone doing? I'm CH Gorog, and I go by CH Gorog sometimes. It's funny just because I used to have an AOL account, but my username was, I thought I was so cool at the time because I loved Mortal Kombat so much, MK Fighter. I don't remember what the number was, but there was a number after it, and I just thought I was the hot shit for that day. And then I realized growing up, I didn't have a lot of foresight into this in the future. I can't really give an employer that email address and say like, oh yes, take me seriously, please. So I just decided to go with my good old Christian name, and for CH Gorog, that's kind of a stage name, if you will. Gorog is actually my middle name, and CH is the first letters of my first and last name, which are Chris Harris. So, my goodness.
Yes.
Breaking new grounds in this episode, revealing such things as names. Oh my god. My goodness.
All shall be revealed and more on this new episode of Bloody Thumbs.
Dun, dun,
it's like
dun. It's like those ending zingers at the end of the old Batman episodes, teasing what's going on for next week. All will be revealed on the next episode of Batman. Tune in on the same.
Well, crime fighter, be able to get out of this pinch and jam? You tune in next week on Batman. Same bat time, same bat channel.
But with us, sometimes either bi-weekly or every three times out of the week. Who knows? With us, it's very sometimes inconsistent. But who cares? Who cares?
Who gives a damn? We're giving them free entertainment. They should just be happy that we're doing this in the first place. But we love them, and we're going to continue to do so.
Gives a turkey.
Yeah. And speaking of things that are entertaining and things that make everybody smile, I just completed a new milestone for myself, which is I completed BioShock Infinite on 1999 mode. So, very happy about that.
I've heard many people take this road to gamedom. You beat a game once, you think, man, that was a good game, and then the next, you want to play this on another difficulty. You up the ante a little bit to mix things up. There are a few games where I do that. I did that with Conviction recently. I mean, not recently, but that's the recent game I've actually played all difficulty levels, and the higher difficulty is not too bad.
No.
But it's a bit more fast paced than the normal. But yeah, I played it all in easy, normal, and then the hard difficulty. Realistic, which the AI for Conviction, looking back, is not so realistic here and there. But hey, it's an interesting wording choice of difficulty there.
Realistic in the Splinter Cell universe, because then it works now, and I'm still looking forward to seeing what they do with Blacklist, because it looks like they've heard a lot of the criticism that people have had at the first showing of E3. They still haven't replaced the guy with Michael Ironside like they did for Agent 47, with the original voice actor, but they they're still they still address a lot of the issues with the stealth problems, especially since like the first game, the first showing of the Splinter Cell game was basically just stabbing dudes in the face and huge explosions, and you think to yourself, wait a minute, isn't this supposed to be a stealth game? And then they brought out the Ghost playthrough, which was just basically like, oh yeah, it's just the assault gameplay demo, except they don't have the animations for the non-stealth kills because they didn't think that people would care as much. So it's like so they just like really still in development. And so it's just like, okay, we're just not going to kill anyone.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that that they've come a long way and that they have a lot of options open. And I hope it's the, my feelings, Splinter, and I think I know yours about the about Sam Fisher and Michael Ironside not being a part of the production.
Yeah, a little bit of that, and also a little bit on just to add again further and on it. It's just a story inconsistency. Going from Conviction to that, it just just looking from the trailers doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But not saying it doesn't make sense. Maybe I'll reword that. But in a way, how the last game ended, it should have been just a final resolution there. They could have gone the route of having Fisher be a Lambert type and have him being the voice of reason or voice of advice every now and then for a new Splinter Cell. But I see why they did it. Fisher is a iconic character, and he's certainly marketable. And if they're going to be making future anything ending with Cell games, so I get it. But doesn't mean I have to completely enjoy it. But I'm sure in terms of gameplay, it will be pretty enjoyable. Looks very good. At least they're taking into account, like you were mentioning, about having both stealth and very, very assault-focused approaches to the game, because I think it's certainly an evolution that should have been probably a little bit embedded in Conviction, because we already have a lot of these games that have a variety of options to go about them, and moral choices and choices how you choose to go certain routes and how to play the games, because everybody has different variety of game styles they have. So and just having it be one particular thing, it's certainly not the most let's say current of what's kind of going on in terms of gameplay designs nowadays. Yes,
and I would say that if this was maybe 3 years ago, I would believe, like, okay, it needs to be a little bit more heavy action pace to compete with competitors. But then we have the release of Dishonored, which is a more classical stealth game where you're not invincible, you don't have regenerating health, where you have to sneak and be actually thoughtful with how you approach things, and that's sold incredibly well. Got accolades left and right, and I think that just showed to them, like, okay, you know what, we can actually just have the options for a full stealth game without having to worry about alienating too many people. Because I think nowadays these franchises have become so big that the only thing that the developers can think of is, we need to go bigger, we need to have more explosions or craziness, and that sometimes removes what was so great about the game in the first place when you go too big. Like I would say Dead Space, where Dead Space is The first two games were these great atmospheric, creepy, crawling pieces where you're all alone. And in Dead Space 2, you had a lot more action in it, but it was justified. It was just these long segments of atmosphere, and then these action sequences, and then you'd be thrown back into the terror. And then with Dead Space 3, it's okay, roll around, shooting other humans, having basically universal ammo, so you don't need to worry about picking that up. And co-op, and so it's a lot of their decisions ruined. Sort of what was the core idea of what Dead Space was, and then you have what was it? Games like Amnesia and what was it? Slender that actually appeal to certain demographics in terms of genre conventions, and they're successful. And then you have these big studios not wondering what the hell's wrong. And they said like, all those types of games don't make money. Yeah, those types of games don't make money because you're not making those games, and you're going to fail 100% of the time if you don't try. So it's this weird middle ground of them understanding that they need to do something new, but being too afraid to actually finance it themselves and take a creative risk.
Yeah, that's a lot what we're missing now in gaming. People taking risks. CH. I mean, Miyamoto didn't become a success by playing it safe. That's right.
And you know what? And what's very interesting is that this year, speaking of playing it safe and Miyamoto, Nintendo and 2K Games, two of the bigger figureheads in the industry, won't be having booths at this year's E3. It's fairly interesting, just because it's there's reports of Microsoft unveiling the next Xbox, which may have always-on DRM, and if that is the case, I probably will not buy it. Yeah. And then you have Nintendo, who's they're finally making money again after like 2 quarters of the Wii U not exactly proving to be as big of a hot ticket as they would have hoped. And then, because it's the technology as well as the fact that they have no exclusives, and the exclusives that they had go multi-console. And then, for 2K Games, I can understand. It's just like these weird positions right now, because with Nintendo and with Nintendo, it's like, okay, we need to circle our wagons. And with Microsoft, it's like, okay, they're going to be releasing the new Xbox. Then with 2K Games, it's almost like, yeah, we're just going to be taking a break from right now, just because we've been doing so damn well. Because the year's not over yet, and we still have Grand Theft Auto 5 to be released later, and they just had one of the biggest commercial and critical successes with BioShock Infinite. So it's looking very interesting in terms of how the year will pan out from here on out.
It is. I'm looking forward to see if there's anything that pops up that may not have gotten a lot of kind of hype or recognition by people that are looking forward to it, because I guess this month and the next next month and the next after that, nothing really huge coming out, and from what I recall, it's going to be really a big drought. So I might dig into some probably indie stuff or PC things and until something big comes out.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Everybody was rushing to get their games out at the beginning of the year when they could release in maybe now that Injustice has been released, they can release something now or the next 2 months and basically have no competition whatsoever. And it's just it's this weird thing, like, okay, if it's not during the winter season, apparently games don't sell, but we've seen that's not true. And it used to be like, okay, it used to be that you don't sell at the beginning of the year, you sell towards the end of the year, like the fall and winter times, because that's when they sell. And then they proved that wrong with the year of Bayonetta and Mass Effect 2, where it's like, oh no, these actually sell really, really well at the beginning of the year. And then it just seems like the people who the people who try to justify their business actions in the video game industry have no idea how to look at business, and that's something that I appreciate, because it's no matter what the industry is, economists will always be full of crap, and they're always going to be just huge dunderheads.
Yes. I always see it like this: if the game is good enough, or if it's outserving something there's some people are clamoring for something in this. Let's say the month of May, they'll buy it because there's nothing out in regards to something of a bigger scale, like AAA titles. I think that's why games like Sleeping Dogs did so well, because they came out in August when nothing was really out in August. Just proper timing like that could easily make a game for a couple of weeks. It could easily be this top-selling game for a couple of weeks. So yes,
and especially when it would have been probably in Square Enix's best interest to have released Tomb Raider or Sleeping Dogs or Hitman maybe at a later point in time when they didn't have competition, because they've been selling millions of their copies of these games, and they still consider them failures. And it's like, wow, how is this possible? We've reached a point in the industry where selling millions of copies somehow makes you even vulnerable to being called a critical, a commercial failure. And I think we're at a really sensitive time in the industry where publishers need to realize, like, okay, we're spending money in the wrong areas, we're blowing these productions, and they think that they can make Call of Duty money every year. And it's just, not going to happen, because Call of Duty is the industry leader.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just they happen to struck gold with that particular franchise, having a variety of people purchase them and play them for all sorts of different reasons, and all of them are just mainly casual purchases sometimes, and it's hard to really emulate that success again. It's just one of those things where it was like lightning in a bottle. If you're trying too hard, it's not always gonna pan out the way you can. You always try to make the best game you can, and always spend the money where it should be going, and not a lot of just redundant matters of just marketing, or maybe marketing. I mean, I guess probably good field there, but just not spending a lot of money. I think you can make a good game on a reasonable budget. I think that's easily said on any type of right. game, independent or by a bigger company. We've seen that already with basic simple games like Hotline Miami do it very well. I'm sure that didn't cost a lot to make, and it made a lot of money. So I don't know.
Yeah. It knew its audience, and same thing with Dark Souls, whereas the developer made it for a reasonable price. They knew their market. They advertised it well, and then they made a good chunk of money on it. Not Call of Duty money on it, but then the only one who can make that kind of money is Call of Duty. I don't understand why every single game needs to for some reason get every single demographic, and and because of that, it feels like they're wiping away the identities of these games to try to make something that's basically just Call of Duty. And I kind of think that maybe it's going to turn because of recent sentiments in the industry, especially with EA being voted the worst company in America and not being able to hide anymore. And there's so many articles about that. And while I think that they're probably going to do the thing of just staying quiet for so long, and that over time people will start to forget and start to not care anymore about the fact that EA just kind of treats its customers fairly rotten. I think that this is probably a wake-up call for that company, that they need to maybe change some business practices.
Definitely for them. Just in terms of business practices. you always try to make the best game you can. It's not gonna appeal to everybody. Everyone has different tastes, and everyone has their reasons for playing certain games. So just try to make the best game you can for whatever type of game it is, and just see where it goes from there. I think it's just a case of them trying too hard and then having too much expectations and not it being filled the way they particularly would have liked it to be filled. Publishers, I say.
Mm.
So that's what it is.
Yeah, it's also this will perhaps bring a smile to your face.
Yes.
Where CD Projekt Red has talking about the Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Witcher! I finally started to playing through the game again, just because I remember none of the lore, any of the characters, any of the story, and I forgot how enthralling it is. And especially, CD Projekt Red knew their audience, they knew their demographic, and they made a damn good game for it. And because of that, they're able to make, The Witcher 3. And what they've gone on saying is that there's no place for multiplayer in Witcher 3, and so it's just going to be a single player experience. And I'm kind of disappointed in the industry that this is news. That it's surprising. Like, oh, why don't you include multiplayer in this? Well, because multiplayer would be kind of stupid, because it's not really a multiplayer game, and apparently there's going to be over 100 hours of single player content. So I'm really looking forward to see what's going to be going on. My
goodness, I'm gonna have a lot of time I need to fill with that. Yeah, I mean, I've heard that they're doing the save transfers as well. They're going to go the route of Mass Effect there. Have your save files from the second game go over to the third one. It's going to have, from what I recall in an article I read, it's going to have some effect in terms of kind of how the story is presented. The subtle things on certain choices you make that probably will get referenced or mentioned or have some sort of effect. It has some sort of effect on what side quest you see or don't see, depending on what choices you make and during the game experience and near the end. It'd be really interesting to see. I like to see more games at least take that kind of approach with its kind of save mechanics and see how they translate over to another sequel in terms of what you did prior to that game. Not a lot of games have really done it. The only ones like the Mass Effect are the big ones that kind of set the standard for that. And it seems like they're going to be trying that for Witcher 3 going on. I mean, I'm looking forward to this quite a lot. I dug The Witcher 2 a lot. Love the lore, love the side characters there. Love talking to the elves over at the pub, doing some quick time events at fight clubs and all that good stuff. It got me reading the book, so I'm digging it.
Well, excellent. But sadly, you might be a little disheartened to hear this, but apparently there's going to be no quick time events in The Witcher 3.
God damn it!
Yeah, they're getting rid of it. It's going to be all, I think this might be an improvement. Who knows? I mean, the quick time events do have their own sort of charm to it, but then again, I was thinking the same thing of the dialogue system in Oblivion. And then just having that completely gone in Skyrim, where it's like, this is a much better system than that 4-option wheelhouse persuasion thing, where it's like, oh, really like, don't like, not like at all, and then it's like, oh, how dare you? It's like, I'm glad that's over, but I have to say that probably Witcher 3 is. And for this console generation especially, I'm looking forward to seeing The Witcher, come out. And as you were saying, the whole concept of save games porting over, I also would like to see that in more games about choice, especially with the next season of The Walking Dead by Telltale Games, because I would love to see a lot of ramifications on what's been going on. And
right,
I just love to see everything that transpired and how different people's games play because of that.
Oh yeah, I'd love to see that too. And then in regards to the QuickTime events, yeah, I'm sure that would probably be a improvement without in the third one. From what I recall, the only time I did those QuickTime events were the ones when you were doing like hand-to-hand combat stuff, and I see why they did it. You can only do so much with hand-to-hand combats, and the easy route sometimes to just do QuickTime events. But we've seen it now with games like Batman Arkham Asylum and Sleeping Dogs to go that approach where it's not QuickTime events. Those are making it a bit more enjoyable to do those hand-to-hand combat stuff. But I could see it being probably. I mean, I wouldn't miss it nor be excited that it's gone in the third one. But I don't know from what you recall playing, and if there were any other times you had to do QuickTime events. The only times I remember doing them was in doing those Fight Club segments that got you more gold and stuff. But that's really all about it. You never really did it for any boss battles or anything, from what I recall.
It was unarmed combat, and it was and for the Fight Club sections. It kind of reminded me a lot of the BioShock, the original BioShock kind of pipe dream mini game where you move the water around to different circuits, and I liked that. I thought it was neat. And then same thing with The Witcher, where it's like, oh, okay, the QuickTime events, this is cool, but and with BioShock 2, they bring in that sort of more immediate system of just like pressing A when the meter kind of hits the green, and then that's fine too. That's also engaging, but I don't see why people all retroactively hating on stuff. And I'm fairly certain that will happen with The Witcher 3, where they'll say like, "Oh, I always hated that QuickTime event stuff," and it's like, well, it had its own charm to it. I like it.
It did, yeah. I mean, you also have to take into the you have to take into effect that those were kind of side things you could do. It wasn't something that required you to always go into the fisticuffs with people. Those are just mainly kind of little side things that kind of were little distractions from the main game. That was pretty much kind of heavily kind of strategy, combat, third person focused game, which where it was most of the time, and just making little dialogue options here and there. And the same thing with BioShock. Those little hacking mini games were good to get some little extra cash, but they weren't really required if you didn't like doing them. I mean, I didn't like doing them. Like I thought, I sucked at them. I wasn't fast enough for it.
Yeah, those can be difficult, and finding the right type of mini game for a main game where your combat is not exactly the same as the mini game is sort of hard. So, like, I can see why they didn't have any of that in BioShock Infinite, where it's just picking up lockpicks for Elizabeth to unlock doors rather than just you playing a mini game to get inside, like like the Pipe Dream mini game. So, yeah, it's. May I suggest that we take a quick break for a moment, and then we shall come back?
We shall. I hear you. So we're back. We're back again, and better than ever.
Now, replaying BioShock Infinite, I just remember, there's a lot of great, and speaking of music as well, there's a lot of great songs in there. But has there ever been a game in a song where it's either licensed music or pre-existing music that you were introduced to through video games?
A couple of the oldies in Fallout. I loved a couple of tracks on there. I forgot what. I don't know the artist was saying this, but it was like when I listened to the radio while I was like walking around. It was the Under a Waterfall. I like that tune. This might be the musical episode we've been talking about for many past episodes.
Singing all dancing. Hello, my baby. Hello, my darling. Hello, my ragtime gal. Send me a kiss by wire. Baby, my heart's on fire.
Come over here, toots.
Come on, Neb. Sugar, come over here, sugar doll. Let's dance the night away with the Sheba.
I'll shake those gams.
I want that classic verbiage of such like confusing levels of what the hell are they talking about. Nowadays, it's way too plain. It's like, hey, nice boobs. That's it. Come on, I mean, you can't. You won't even go the extra mile, like nice melons or sweater zeppelins, or just like something clever and creative. And then it's just like, no, just boobs.
Yeah, we're not that eloquent when it comes to being that frank about what we see, as people were in the good old days, I like to call them.
Yes.
I wish I was born in the 40s, to be honest with you.
Well,
although I may not have survived, but hey.
I was about to say, just it was great for middle class white guys, but it was shit for everyone else.
I'll take it back then.
I mean, it would also be like, okay, it was like, oh, the man of the house is the last word. Yeah, we're awesome. But then at the same time, you'd be like, yeah, but a lot of times you don't want to go in the South because that leads to just the worst experiences possible known to American history, really, if you think about it.
Oh yeah. I don't want that.
Someone going to Little Rock who was not of white color, like, caused the biggest controversies in Alabama, and probably still the same effect this day. Like, I'm pretty sure they're still picketing the lines. It's like, don't let blacks into our school. It's like, well, they're already here. I mean, we have 5 who are teachers, so I don't know why you're still picketing this.
Mm-hmm. I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hope that, like, by the 21st century, because this is like 2013, I would have thought that, in 2013, that like we would have at least gotten rid of a lot of stupid, petty stuff, like whether gay marriage should be equal to regular marriage or not, and they should. It's something that really is. I don't know why it's taken so long, and then same thing with just racism and a lot of other petty issues like that.
Forget that stuff. Forget.
You know what I mean, bro?
Forget racial equality. Forget gay marriage. What about flying cars? We've been getting teased with this for years in movies. Remember,
very, very true.
Judge Dredd had flying cars, and it was like the year 20 something. It was like way past where we are right now, and we got no flying cars. What the hell? Although at the same time, I wouldn't want flying cars because people don't know how to drive for shit. So they'd be taking down buildings with the way they drive.
People don't know how to drive now. Now imagine that they can go in any direction that they desired, and imagine drunk driving then. And it's like, okay, you would have catastrophes upon catastrophes almost every week, and I want to see maybe the green, the 3 shells coming back in. I was about to say the 3 green shells, so then I'm thinking like, oh, Mario Kart, like just have that technology where I can just like, oh man, I'm late for work and all these cars are on my way. I know, green shell, go.
3 seashells.
Yeah,
I gotta say, Demolition Man was ahead of his time. Some of the not political, but the social commentary.
Yeah, especially just how everybody is just so. I don't want to say emasculated, but just like so far removed from taking direct action that it's actually refreshing to have Sylvester. It's like Sylvester Stallone coming in would be like Sylvester Stallone appearing in the Middle Ages, a la Ash from The Evil Dead, where it's just, wow, this is a breath of fresh air. And then he's a, what are 3 seashells for?
I know.
Good man. And also, what was his name? Wesley Snipes in that film, just as the Black Joker. Mm-hmm. That's just awesome.
His best role ever, I say. Demolition Man. It's probably be up there with that other movie. I forgot what it was called. Like two.
White
something.
Man Can't Jump.
White Man Can't Jump, and the other movie where he cross dresses with Patrick Swayze and John Leguizamo.
I have not seen that one. I desperately need to now, just to see Wesley Snipes doing cross dressing.
Yeah, it's certainly one of the films to watch. You know how they always say, I think it's AFI or some other publication puts out these lists of movies you got to watch before you die, and this is the Splinter list right here. This is exclusive to this podcast. You got to watch that movie. Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo and Patrick Swayze, the late Patrick Swayze. God rest his soul. Cross dressing. So that's certainly one. That's one for the bucket list there. And
yes, indeed.
Steven Seagal movie called I believe it's called Against the Darkness or something. He fights vampires in that one. His first movie where he fights dudes that are not Jamaicans, drug dealers, and or woman beaters. So this is certainly a different approach in types of kind of enemies Steven Seagal will be encountering in this flick. Vampires and Steven Seagal and samurai swords. Although I can't recommend you watch the first 40 minutes because he's not even in the first 40 minutes, so I'd recommend fast forward into that, and we get some Steven Seagal action. And just like that, it reminds me, it was just like that one movie, I don't know what it's... No, it was...
where it's like the main actor isn't even in there, like the main protagonist isn't even in there for like the first hour of the film.
Yeah, you could use that as an example, but there's another movie I watched long ago, probably a couple years ago. I have it on DVD. I think Flight of the Living Dead, where none of the action kicks in until like 40 minutes into the film, and all this just set up here with the main characters you're going to be introduced to that are on the plane, and that's when the action kicks in. It has two people from The Mummy in it, and it was a direct-to-DVD film. So
Brendan Fraser?
Brendan Fraser? No, Brendan Fraser wasn't in it. He might be in one of those. George of the Jungle. I did see that sequel to George of the Jungle.
Ooh, you poor devil.
Well, you know.
What? Well, okay. So, what was it? Was it a direct to? It was obviously direct to DVD, but was it like still live action, or were they like calling it? Okay. Was it a live action film, and did it star? And did it have George raising his son?
You're right on the money there.
Oh,
he had a direct sequel to that first one. He got together with the Lisa Mann character in the first George of the Jungle.
Yeah, and Leslie Mann.
Leslie Mann, yeah. And they raised the kid.
Probably my favorite role of hers, and I'm not joking because like she actually has a lot of emotional depth in that film.
Yeah, I'll say that's thinking about it. Yeah, she puts a lot of she put some work into that. In that particular role, she did for the wrong movie, but
yeah, and you know who does even better is in that film they have Thomas Hayden Church as the big villain. It's like what in the world is happening? Like what when you watch Sideways and Spider-Man 3, where it's like okay, like this is a very serious actor with great acting chops. Then you go into George of the Jungle, and he's like, uh-oh, he actually just kissed a giant ape. Oh no, what's going to happen? And it's like, oh, wow, that is interesting to see.
Hmm. Yeah, so to go, from what I recall, I won't stay on this any longer because I'm already bored of it myself. But the George of the Jungle 2, he was raising his kids, and they had, they always have to have conflict in these films. So there's always conflict going on there. And the kid they raised was none other than Angus T. Jones from 2.5 Men fame.
Angus?
Yes.
I hope they didn't treat him like a slab of meat there.
Well, child actors are always kind of getting tossed around every now and then. In different roles. Very
true. They got to learn their place. Macaulay Culkin should have known that, or else he wouldn't be on the street right now.
Well, that's why he emancipated. Got emancipated.
Very, very, very true. He was home alone too often, and now look what happens to you. You get you have like these crazy fun times around the corner. Or like have you ever see Olympus Has Fallen? It's basically like the grown-up version of Home Alone, where it's just like one guy against like all these dangerous people. I would like to think that that's probably the canonical sequel.
The look of that film seemed like a very cookie cutter version of like something you see in episode of 24, kind of.
Yeah, it's incredibly derivative of the Die Hard formula of kind of the modern day action adventure formula. They don't really try to change it up. I do like the fact that they try to make their they do try to work on the character connections at the beginning of the film. Like Aaron Eckhart's character talks with Gerard Butler's character, and they have their own history. But
I mean, but like, the thing is, like, Die Hard is the gold standard for a reason. Because it is just absolutely incredible.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, you could see why. Like, every scene in that film has a point to it, and it's like setting up early stuff, like the fact that John talks to himself when he's alone, or to express some, to just get rid of some anger, or the fact that he, and like there's even things that are never brought up, like the fact that he like has a wandering eye for women, and like there's the implication that his marriage isn't going so well, but that just fleshes out the character and has nothing to do with the story. And I love the fact that they avoid so many tropes, like the asshole kind of douchebag coworker who you think is going to like turn John in. He's just like, and tell him like, oh yeah, he's this guy's wife. It just like turns out like, no, I just invited him on over because we're old friends. And then it's like, oh, like that's interesting. Like other people would have gone different ways.
It's a pleasant surprise when you're expecting those things to happen and they don't. That's pretty cool.
And then you got Detective Carl Winslow from Family Matters, working the streets. And then I would have loved it if Urkel just happened to show up. Like, oh, like, how you doing, Officer Winslow? Oh my goodness, that building's on fire.
Oh, it just reminded me of an article I read a while back. It was sort of kind of just a different website, sort of kind of in the same ilk of like The Onion, where they had a story of the actor who played Carl Winslow on Family Matters. So he was like, oh, he's like, after many years since the show's been canceled, he still wears that uniform, that cop uniform, always busting people for jaywalking and driving over the speed limit,
and eating his Twinkies.
Yeah, he certainly loved his pastries.
Yes,
who doesn't? Who doesn't? I don't blame him.
Yeah, is it weird to you that that our children are gonna grow up not knowing what a Twinkie is? Like, there's gonna be like derivatives, obviously, of it, where there's like, okay, like a yellow custard-filled pastry thing, but it's not gonna be called a Twinkie.
Yeah, it's certainly shamed. Certainly the hallmark of our very history. If we go back into the catalogs here, look into the encyclopedia of pastries. The Twinkie is the milestone, the Call of Duty of Twinkies.
It's the Officer Carl Winslow of snacks, where it's like, you're not sure whether or not they're doing a good job, but you always want them to be there.
Exactly.
And then
yes.
Yeah, it's so strange how that happened, because it's like, okay, the workers went on strike demanding higher wages, and then they said like, okay, we've been closed for too long, we have to close down the entire company. I wonder if like the guy who unionized all the people into striking was like immediately beating the shit out of for doing that. It's like, you made us do this? What the hell's wrong with you?
I could be mistaken, but I think I saw a brief headline on saying that they were bringing back the Twinkies, but that the workers are going to be non-union, something like that.
Well, the thing is, Hostess owns the names to like Twinkies, Snowballs, all the other various candies that they have, and then it's like, I don't like the you don't like the taste. No, it's not the taste, it's the texture. I can't stand it. And then you have like Ghostbuster and Zombieland referencing Twinkies, so like that's gonna be weird to have storylines that like nobody has anymore. And it's like, oh, Woody Harrelson was right. Like in the future, Twinkies are going to be incredibly rare because like they don't exist anymore. And then but like I'm not sure whether or not they'll be able to call them Twinkies just because Hostess still owns the name, and I think they would need to have a couple of years between them and bankruptcy to sell off all the licensing stuff.
Oh man, if I tell you, if I was still in that phase where I bought Twinkies, and I would have made some serious bucks. You know how much of those Twinkie boxes are going off for eBay?
Yeah. Guns and Twinkies. Like when people are threatening to get rid of them, then there's a huge resurgence in buying them up again.
I could retire with that Twinkie money. Like,
yes, if you just had like a box of Twinkies, you could then just live in a very cushy life. And what's even better is that you can just sit on them for a couple of years, wait for them to get really rare, and they'll still be fine because they are Twinkies. They'll last throughout the 5 apocalypses to come. Mm-hmm. And it's like, sell them off, and then you'll make a fortune.
That's right. So speaking of something that was, I guess, I don't know if it's a good segue, but something that was presented at first, and now if it was off the face of the planet, and now resurgence again. I know that's a horrible segue, but anyways, I'll just come out and say it now.
No, not at all.
I'll just come out. No, I'm just joking. Well, 2K Marines.
Yes.
You know that XCOM reboot. You remember that first person shooter people got all up in arms about until Firaxis came along and made the strategy turn-based strategy that we know today.
Yeah.
And now with the recent insurgence of that, they seem like they'll be going the same route as the Firaxis did, except it's going to be third person instead of it being top down, sort of strategy game. Mm-hmm. And then some of the pics I see online here, is looking pretty interesting, incorporating some of the kind of a lot of the discussions on aliens and during the 60s. They're going to take place. This game's going to take place during the 60s. You're going to be playing as some good old fashioned 60s cops with the fedoras and nice. these classic rifles and all sorts of 60s things we all remember.
Yes, indeed.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Mad Men, that era.
Yeah, Mad Men, like, as the season progresses, is always going into the different eras. Like, the first season was the 40s, I believe. And now the current season we're at, I think it's the 60s. So, yes.
Very nice.
Speaking of Mad Men, it's going good. Yeah.
We're, I think the original, it was originally going to be the XCOM reboot, but they took so long that they heard people saying like, "Oh, we want XCOM to be a strategy game, like a turn-based game, like it was in the original days." And so to kind of quiet up those voices, they said like, "Okay, here's this other XCOM game," and then it sold incredibly well, and just because there was just no market for turn-based strategy games, especially for the console. I mean, good luck trying to find one. And then, the kind of failure critically and commercially of a Syndicate, where that one was turned into like an old franchise that was turned into a first-person shooter, didn't really work out. And I think after seeing that, they said to themselves, "Okay, you know what? Let's just not change this to a first-person shooter just for the sake of being a first-person shooter, and let's make it something else." Like they're saying it's the Bureau, so it might tie into XCOM or. It maybe in a tangential way, like maybe Bioshock Infinite and Bioshock are kind of related. Who knows?
Yeah, this says something about it being kind of an origin story for the XCOM organization, seeing how it progressed from the 60s and up until like the XCOM Enemy Unknown, which is kind of very set in a not too distant future where there's a lot of technology going on in keeping the kind of keeping this, the sanity of the overall globe of the world and trying to balance them out, because there's always a lot of these alien abductions going on and people panicking and just trying to keep everything, as balanced as you can. Balance. Mm-hmm. Get that equilibrium there.
Absolutely, and that's also a great film. So if you haven't seen Equilibrium yet as well, we also put that on the list of films to watch.
Yeah, very, very good flick, and there's a good mod for that too. If you play Max Payne 2, you can get a mod for that.
Oh, awesome! I have not played that yet.
It's an interesting mod. I haven't had too much time with it, but only like the first couple of. There's different modes on there. You can play the certain levels that the modders made, and you can just go your way through that. And also there's like a sort of a training room, kind of the same room that they were doing all that training, all that gun training in the movie.
Gun
so you
kata.
Can the gun kata, it'll teach you how to do certain different moves. But it's a bit complex at first, so it takes you a little while to get used to. But it's really cool. A lot of the animations they did with the with the gun shooting and just a lot of it taken from just like the movie. So it's a lot heavily inspired by some of the gun moves and all that good stuff. The gun kata.
Do you have to have? I'm sorry for interrupting, but do you have to have the Max Payne game for the mod to work, or does it kind of work as its own standalone thing?
That would be cool, but as to my knowledge, you have to have Max Payne 2 in order to run that mod on there. So you drop files into the specific folders and load up the game. Gives you the option to select the different mods that are in that game folder. So yeah, gotta have Max Payne 2 to play a little bit of that mod there, but it's worth at least checking out on YouTube if anyone doesn't have access to the Max Payne 2 game, which I don't think it's only for Windows at the moment, unfortunately. Damn Mac.
Gotcha.
Mac users get to shut out again.
That makes me sad. I honestly hope that there will be a day when Mac users and Windows users and Unix users can come together in the bonds of brotherhood and play some goddamn Max Payne 2 together.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think so. The world will be at peace. It's going to be a perfect world if that happens.
Yes, indeed, and I'm certainly looking forward to that day when little boys and little girls of all creeds and colors will come together and blow the shit out of each other in Halo.
I have a dream.
Why am I not regarded as the civil rights leader of this generation? I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough to get noticed. I mean, I know you had your CH's Corner, which obviously, if anyone doesn't know, Adam Seltzer ripped off of CH. Used
blatantly and without apology, and I'm angry at him.
Well, you probably will mention it to him if you ever meet him in person. That'd be something you should address to him.
Yeah, it's like, how dare you make not only you take the formula from my show, but show me up by actually making consistent weekly content. I demand that you apologize to me.
I'm sure he will. And then that'll be the end of that. And then we'll finally settle it once and for all that he admittedly apologized for you, but we'll continue to make his his popularity and earnings from it if he does at all. The Stess man is out there kicking it old school on Rev 3 on the Destructoid.
Yes, indeed, boy, howdy. It's I'm really glad that it's something that my uncle actually was talking to me about one of these days, where it's now people are now since TV's sort of a dying sort of breed, people are going to be going online now for Splinter casting, which is Splinter.
Ooh.
But it's going to be more for now. They're not going to be as wide demographics, but there's just going to be so many more options that people are now going to be catered to by very niche desires, and one of them is like video games, where you don't have to sell out to bigger, higher companies and get rid of your identity. Like, for instance, now G4 has become Esquire TV, which is the most. I still cannot believe that that transition occurred, and it's like, how the hell did you go from that to a show that had like a bare minimum budget of like $12 for video games to making it like, okay, now it's a metrosexual male TV station all about just like style. Like, it's boggling to me. I don't like. I come back in 10 years, it's probably gonna be like the North Korea Fun Time channel, and it's just gonna be very interesting to see like how long that will last.
I always say it until this day that we could have saved that channel. All we had to do was send them our podcast, and all we needed was the audio and the picture of our artwork, and then that would have been a nice time slot filler.
Yeah. Or just say that we'll replay episodes of Star Trek Cops and Cheaters on a loop for 6 hours, and then I'm sure we would have gotten a job there.
Most likely. I actually probably would have watched that channel if they had reruns of MXC. I dig the hell out of MXC.
Well, the thing is, like, they would have to actually pay for something that people want instead of, like, okay, really old stuff that is, so far out of the pop culture status that they have to, claim it's actually relevant to the history of geekdom. like they would always play like, oh, 80s movies that don't totally suck, and it's like, and besides the really terrible marketing they had for it, it's like, oh, these are very important geek icon movies. Like there was one about Val Kilmer. It was a John Hughes movie, I think, where he was where there was like like Genius, I think it was called, or something, where it was Val Kilmer was like an incredibly like smart guy who wanted to be a slacker, and then he's trying to help this other kid who's this kind of nerdy, nebbish sort of guy, and I can't really remember what it is, but it's like it's so far out of the, or like Weird Science, where it's like, okay, that's not a bad film, but it's like it's not exactly important to geek culture. Like where's Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, or the Star Wars films?
That is correct, sir. You should be running that. You should have been running that channel, man. What's going on here?
I think I probably would have committed suicide a long time ago after firing so many people, especially like getting Jeff Keighley off of there, getting Scott Rubin. Did you ever watch Arena?
Vaguely. I've heard of it, but I've only seen like one episode of it, probably on YouTube. I probably didn't see it during its original run. I got into G4 pretty kind of middle of its cycle there.
Yeah, it's competitive online stuff. It was mostly just like repeats of like Unreal Tournament, as guys tried to give commentary. But how the hell can you give commentary to something as fast paced as like that? And as uncoordinated as Unreal Tournament? I don't know, but somehow they found a way. And then one of the guys who was in charge of it was Kevin Pereira, one of the hosts, and then one of his co-host was this huge hulking guy, and then he just seemed like the most jovial fellow. He had the Dwayne Johnson charm about him, where it's like, oh, he's this big guy, but he seems like the big guy with a heart of gold, like he went the friendly giant. I miss that dynamic of all these crazy hosts like Diane Mizoda or oh man, what was her name? I had the biggest crush on her. It was she was on G4 Tech TV. I'm sorry, G4 the show, where it was just like they had a round table discussion, and they had like callers call in with questions. And I have I cannot believe I'm forgetting her name. I always forget people's names. Why am I so forgetful, Freddy?
It happens. It happens.
But hey, as you have said before, Google is at my disposal, and I shall do that right now. So I'll just look that up. But
it goes to show you that even though the former personalities that were on that channel, they went on to do their own things, and it just shows that they were very talented at what they did. So they always, most of them found something else to do.
Adam Sessler went after. I'm sorry.
No, it was like they found something to do after G4. It goes to show you who were the ones that were actually had talent from on those shows, and who didn't, that went on to do other things.
Because you have like Adam Sessler going on something else, Jeff Keighley going on the game trailers, and then he also did a Mountain Dew Gate, which was fairly awesome too. Whereas the first big controversy happening. So hey, we got newsworthy people.
Are we looking for the same thing?
I'm just
looking for the name of the.
I'm trying to remember the show name. Oh, Tina Wood and Laura Foy. I now remember. It was I had a big crush on Tina Woods. Just like whenever she would have on screen, my little prepubescent heart would be like, I love her. She's awesome. We'll get married one day. Yay! And then the reality set in, like, oh yeah, we're about 15 states away from each other, and she wants something to do with me. Good times.
I had the mental image when you said that you were gonna hang yourself if you were the one that running G4. I had the thought that one day everyone is showing up for work. It's it's a normal day. Everyone getting set to go, getting their coffee there. Starting up their computers there, and then opening up the blinds, and the next thing you know, it's like that scene from The Dark Knight. You just come out of nowhere with a noose around your neck.
Will the real Adam Sessler please stand up?
Exactly. Oh, that's just what I had in my head. But other than that,
yeah.
What have you been playing, good sir?
I myself have been. I actually made the whole itinerary for games that I've been playing recently has been challenges. The first being kind of the more traditional concept of challenges, which is 1999 mode for BioShock Infinite, and then the next one is an Xbox Live arcade game, an indie arcade game that's so horrendous that I just cannot believe it even got made in the first place. So I want to talk about that in when I actually complete it. But I just want to let you know that one is a challenge because I wanted to enjoy the challenge, and the other one's a challenge I wanted to enjoy because I hated it.
You just have to see how it ends, like a bad movie. You're already in it for 30 minutes, so you might as well finish it. Yeah,
yes, indeed. It's certainly one of those. You're in it to win it, or or it's like you just got to make sure that you stay to the very end, just because you need to, as a badge of honor to show people, listen, I went through this entire game and I had to get through everything that this horrendous game had to offer, and so I'm very looking forward to finishing that and giving you all my review of it.
I know that feeling. I had to sit through the entire film of The Love Guru not very long ago. So I see what you're saying.
You must have had one hot date to sit through all that and not say anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I will say on that.
Okay, most certainly. Well, did she at least like the movie?
Long story short, it didn't work out. So,
very good, very good. Probably for a good reason. It's like, if this is your taste in movies, doll, I don't think it's going to work out between us.
Yeah, it was not a good time in my life with that.
It was not meant to be.
It was not meant to be. Yeah, I've been playing a couple things here. I've been playing nothing particularly new on this end. I've been playing some SNES games on my Android phone. I got the app to simulate Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I know I was thinking about something else.
The old sentence.
It stimulated me too when I was playing it, but I have every game.
Was the vibrator function on? Then that was certainly probably it too.
Right. Yeah, I got the phone on vibrate, so yeah, it's close enough. It vibrates pretty good. You can also you can also create a vibrating pattern as well. So that goes to show you the good old Android and its custom ability. Yeah, I downloaded all the Super Nintendo ROMs and put it on my phone, so I probably will not play every single Super Nintendo game, but I have been playing some Yoshi's Island, revisiting that, and a little bit of the Batman and Robin, The Adventures of Batman and Robin video game, which I like. That was one of my favorite Batman games before Arkham Asylum came out. That was certainly a favorite of mine, kind of a platforming Batman game based off the animated TV show. So I've been playing a little bit of that and a little bit of some of these other kind of app games on the phone. Just mainly just little quick distractions like these. I think it's called this pipe game where you just kind of it give you these different colored dots and you just kind of have to connect them all and fill up the whole square where these dots are laid out here. But small things like that, getting into the iOS gaming here, I could see the appeal there. And recently got my hands on Rayman Origins for a good $20.
Oh, nice.
I'm liking it. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. There was this one moment the first time in the game where it's basically a platforming game. It's like very, reminds me a lot of Yoshi's Island on this great music, awesome, beautiful design, and just colors. It's nice to see colors in the game these days.
Isn't it?
It is. I know. This is exactly what a lot of people wanted from Nintendo with the Wii HD.
Yeah, It's one of those games where it's like, wow, this is what HD gaming was made for, just to show off all these colors. Unfortunately, it's at the time where everybody really wanted, gunmetal gray color palettes and overly serious games.
Yeah, but I'm enjoying the hell out of Rayman Origins. Love the music, the little I don't know what you call it. Ding, 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 ding. I love
the banjo.
The banjo, I love the banjo. It's a lot of that music there playing, and just like the whole feel of it, and just getting these little, I don't remember what they're called, but the yellow things you collect. By that, you collect every
the lums.
The lums you collect, and then you gather up the entirety of what you've gotten by the end of the level, and then fills up the kind of magical syringe or container that the store, and then the amount of you collect, the amount you get on these purple things you can unlock to open up the treasures, to go to those treasure rooms, the treasure levels, so you can get those red teeth. The first time I did it, oh man, I was like, I don't know what clicked for me, but it was like so well done. I was like, oh man, this is fun. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get you treasure chest. And I was like, oh, I felt like a kid when I was playing that the first time I encountered that first level where you can get where you're chasing down that treasure chest with the ruby teeth they have to get for this character that's in the Whispering Wood. That was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I've heard nothing but good things about it. I think the only reason why it didn't do so well is because it came out at around like a really busy release schedule, and so it was competing with like huge AAA shooters. Then it was just like, oh, here's this little game sequel to Rayman that hasn't been that we haven't made a sequel to in over like 4 years to have more Rabbids stuff.
Yeah, and also it was full price too. For it being a platform.
I remember something that I'm sorry for interrupting, but I remember something that I think it was Dave Jaffe who said that Rayman Origins was his favorite game of that year, but it still was not worth the $60 price tag.
I think it would have done pretty well. If not great, if it was a downloadable game. Probably a good $20-$30, maybe.
Yeah.
It would have probably done well.
It was originally going to be that.
Yeah. I guess, from what I've been playing, I'm enjoying the hell out of it for what I paid for it, a good $20, so it's definitely worth that $20 from what I've been playing of it. If not maybe $30. So it's been out for 2 years, so if you happen to see it somewhere in a bargain bin for $20, it's definitely worth a pickup if you're really into the platformers and love Yoshi's Island as much as I do for its vibrant colors, and just it does a lot of things right with just everything. It's a good platformer, Rayman Origins, which I haven't played much of that in quite a while because don't have the patience for it. I never was great at Mario. I was good at Donkey Kong, but not Mario. And especially, I played a little bit of that on the phone, and it doesn't help me at all because sometimes it gets a little. It takes a while to get used to the touchscreen because you're hitting the touchscreen to emulate these buttons on the controller, so it's a little bit hard. Some games I can play pretty easily, and others I can't. Like I can't play Mega Man on it because this is one of those games where you have to hold down the button, to charge up your attacks and also jump at the same time while you're doing it. So it's a little bit hard to do that when it's not actually physical buttons you're pressing down on. So there's some limits to it, but enjoying the games that I've been playing, including Rayman. Also. Yeah, that's really all about it. I haven't played anything else. I purchased Tomb Raider on eBay, so I'm looking forward to getting that later this week.
Mm-hmm. It's certainly a fun game, and I definitely think it's kind of worthy of the praise. And it sort of had this retroactive lashback, just because I think people were expecting so much from the game that it was just. Almost impossible to satisfy everybody's wants from what the game, finally delivered. That people start. I I thought it was the game actually turned out to be really, really good, and a lot of cool little nods to the old continuity, but it's still like it's its own thing, and and I think it's a very good single player experience. The multiplayer stuff is not that great.
Yeah, I could see it why it being there and not being it's not something that's the main attraction of it. Like we've always talked about, they're always trying to add in multiplayer in these single player based games just to extend, I guess, the replay value on our engine, also just to get money on online passes as well. When people get them new, that's I guess one of the main reasons why they have multiplayer in some of these games, and certainly not one of the best examples of it being on there, like on Dead Space 2 or something like Spec Ops, which the devs they stated that they hated that, having to put the multiplayer on that. So the
multiplayer stuff is definitely a hot button issue, and I'm liking the fact that people are starting to get really pissed, really, about all these games that are now requiring DRM that don't work, like SimCity, and the kind of the death of single player game, and the ridiculous notion that I think it was the director over at Crytek, who directed the Crysis games, who said that that single player can't survive on its own. And then I say, bullshit. Look at the two first Mass Effect games. Look at L.A. Noire. Look at Heavy Rain. All these single player games. All of these, were well. All these were sold incredibly well. And I think that people are just, for some reason, there's this industry standard that because if they wish it enough to have more control over their product, then they'll justify everything and saying, "Oh no, these things are dead." And so, that's how I definitely feel about a lot of these companies now these days, like Ubisoft, like EA and Activision, who are just trying to cram all these unpopular looking bits of DRM and kind of these controlling aspects of video games to their customers who don't deserve it.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't. They shouldn't go about that way, since people already purchased the game. So why make it even more of a hassle to actually play it? Go figure.
And then people wonder how Slender or Hotline Miami could sell so well when it's just like, oh, it's this game that was well made and it doesn't have DRM scandals in it. Like, what's going on? This is just ridiculous.
Game that you got was the game that you got.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's wonderful when EA had John Riccitiello open up with that line at EA. It's like, 10 years ago, the game that you had was the game that you had. And you talk about it like that's a bad thing, Mr. Riccitiello, so I don't trust you. And then he got ousted. So, that's interesting to see what he's going to be doing.
We'll see what things come a-brewing from EA after this, after that.
Exchange of hats.
That's correct. So, yeah, I mean, other than that, just some Rayman there, a couple of games on my phone, on the SNES. I don't know. What's your thoughts on? This is something off tangent, but what's your thoughts on game emulation in terms of like if it's a game you already have and you download the ROMs on it? How do you feel about just that in particular? Because to my knowledge, there isn't any kind of legal way to obtain ROMs so you can play those on your computer. Like if you don't happen to have the console anymore, and then you used to have the cartridges, but you don't. That's one of those very slippery slopes that we can go about it all day. It's a lot of differences of opinion regarding that. I don't know. It's
absolutely
a good topic there.
It's for me, it's a gray area, definitely. I think that if you can try to reasonably get the game, then then more power to you. If you have to pay like $2,000, there's only one cartridge left on eBay, then, you know, and the company is not exactly doing their job of making it available to the customer, then I don't mind. Then, I mean, I would kind of prefer to pay for it in a legal way, but the problem is that when you can't pay for it in a legal way, you can only, you know, do so many methods. And, you know, ROM emulation does lead to, you know, strangely enough, it leads to kind of a larger variety of a library that gets passed on down that, you know, people will pay attention to of like gaming culture stuff, because we don't have the Criterion collection for games, and so the emulation is kind of a way to keep it all alive. And I don't think emulation is in of itself bad. Like, for instance, you know, playing a game that you own, like I still own the Donkey Kong, the original Donkey Kong Country for the SNES, but it's at my house, so I just, you know, decided to emulate, you know, play an emulated version, Nintendo still has my money, so I think that, you know, it's kind of fine in that regard, but it's definitely something that, it's a problem of not making it accessible or readily available, which is why a lot of people have been having problems with the Wii, just because, well, and especially the Wii U, because there was talk of like a lot of downloadable GameCube games that never came to fruition, like the Rogue Squadron series, Eternal Darkness. Eternal Darkness is the big one. People have been wanting either a remake of it or, you know, a port or something. And, you know, Nintendo has been incredibly mum on the subject, and
right.
I mean, the WiiWare shop has been, you know, very extensive in terms of like including a lot of games, but some of them have fallen out of licensing. Like Hudson has gone out of business, and because of that, a lot of their licenses haven't been bought up yet, because, you know, all their games are you know, older ones that people don't really want to go through and play again. So emulation is really the only way to keep it alive.
Yeah, that's certainly one of the options there, that you're always going to be able to at least get some sort of copy of it electronically. Yeah, I mean, I guess it also comes down to a lot of the kind of working out the legal process and licensing on some of those older games. If you were to re-release them on, let's say, the Wii or the Wii U, in order to emulate them, I guess I'm sure there's a lot of just legalities to go through, and to get that set up, it just ends up being kind of a hassle, and then it probably don't end up doing. Maybe it'll end up costing them more than what they might get out of it. Which I'm sure there is a market for particular games to get re-released on either consoles or re-released on, you know, other platforms that you can play them on in some capacity that it doesn't have to be the original console, but just some sort of way that you can use the certain particular platform that you're using on, and for it to be playable, you know, with it.
Or there's like the instances of, in the Xbox 360 version of, they did a remake of the Ninja Turtles arcade game, and that turned out to be like one of the worst HD remakes ever made of like a great game, and because of that, like, I would probably support emulation for that, just because people don't. Well, I mean, it's you make an inferior quality product to the original, and you don't offer the original. So how in the world are you supposed to get your hands on that great gaming experience, and, you know, in a legal manner?
Yeah, and also with emulation, you could also download particular plugins as well to make the game look a bit more better than when it originally came out. You know, adding some more textures, or maybe more detailed polygons. I encountered this when I was doing videos for Resident Evil 3 a while back for the YouTube channel. There were some particular settings you could do, and it made the game look a lot better than when it originally had come out through emulation. Which is certainly an alternative.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the modding community. I always tip my hat in their direction, because they always make some of the the best looking stuff. Like, there are Skyrim mods that make the game look 10 times as beautiful as it originally did, or there's so many fun things that to occur that I really do wish that there was an easier way for mods to trickle down, or at least having more of a partnership with console systems, that like they can at least have pre-approved mods that the developer would have, and then download, maybe even if for like a small cost, just for the transfer fees, then allowing customers to continually rebuy them or what have you.
Yeah, but we're sort of getting there little by little. I mean, not particularly with those like 8-bit consoles or anything, but at least with some of the older games that had come out, mainly the ones that are available on Good Old Games. I mean, we're getting somewhere with that site there. You never would have thought that we get to play particular games, because even though there are some games on there that you can download the original files for online, but some of them are just like, not a lot of people are hosting those particular files, so that the download speed of it is atrocious, so you can't download them. But it's great that you actually have the option to just purchase it and to have the download speed be pretty adequate, because of the supported servers for it to download. Like, and even some of the like if you ever want to play some PC games that you have, like I've gone through the process of trying to play some old PC games I had that I could never run, like Sin City, like the first one on my old ass PC, and it's just impossible to run that particular game on there, because it's just through all the different evolutions of technology and software, it has trouble doing it. But it's cool to see a service like Good Old Games put together these particular files and tools, and in order to allow you to run them, like the Tex Murphy games. So those came out on the original. Those came out on DOS, so they had to use a DOS emulator in order you can play them. It was just like the technology we have right now. You can emulate DOS and play those games.
Absolutely, and I mean, thank goodness for Good Old Games, just because of how extensive its background is, and just introducing a lot of people to different games they normally wouldn't. Like, I think it's maybe 90% of the market for point-and-click adventure games.
Yeah, that's one of the good ones on there.
Yeah, and they also offer like indie stuff, and it's like smaller stuff that people really want to offer their put their games on, just because they have such a large market there. And I'm really happy that systems, programs like that and Steam can really shake up kind of the foundations of what people have notions of, buying traditional games, and then not having to jump through hoops to get them.
Yeah, and I've given a lot of games chances that I never would have normally played, or I've missed out on, and I've enjoyed a lot of them. Most of the ones that I played up in point-and-click ones, because point-and-clicks are they're pretty easier to get into than other kind of older games with these older mechanics that don't necessarily hold up that well. But point-and-click games are fairly simple, just pointing and clicking. So it's hard to really to say that you have a hard time going back to them. Maybe some of the puzzles and the way they introduce things probably is a bit difficult, but other than that, it was a pleasure to play some of those forgotten gems that I missed out on because I probably couldn't run them. But like the game like Still Life, I'm very happy I played that game. That's a great point-click adventure. I think it was made by Microids. They did a lot of other, a lot of successfully criticized point-click adventures.
Well, it's nice to see that there's still areas that can appreciate sort of the gaming staple marks without having to make you like cut off an arm and a leg for them. Where you have problems like DRM. Like imagine trying to have Good Old Games have DRM with all these different servers and all these different games trying to tie two together. I mean, I can only imagine that would not work at all. Where it would just be pandemonium and chaos. Whereas, keeping them DRM free and just paying for the game and then you own it for the rest of your life, that's great. I love that. And then, I certainly hope that more maybe programs will try to follow this model. I hope that eventually we'll get a Netflix-esque sort of rental system where, it can be kind of like always on DRM, in the same way that you can, where you need to have, an Xbox Live an account to go on Netflix, where you can just you can basically download the entire game, but you just need the connection to the store to play the rental game. And I certainly hope that we get a better rental system than just the sort of old method of GameFly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hope so. But, I hear you. I guess it just depends on the way the games are these days. They're a bit different than, let's say, movies, because I don't know. It's
no, definitely it would be infinitely harder just because you have to. But nowadays we can download. I don't know. We can download games on demand, and these huge files. And I'd just love to see something similar like that just for games,
Yeah, speaking of large files, I gotta buy me a new hard drive for my 360. It's been long overdue because I get tired of downloading and deleting things I download on Xbox Live, like these arcade titles or DLC that I want to keep because I might play the game again with the DLC and then I have to re-download them again, because I just have the basic hard drive that you get with the 360 when it came out. So it's, the ones that are 250 I think is the maximum that they have available for the older 360 versions before they went to the newer one that was silent. It didn't sound like a rocket taking off, but the ones I've seen are around $50-$60, so it's not too bad of a price. So I might purchase that eventually, because I use that quite a lot, so it's something that I would like to have in order to make my life easier instead of having to install and reinstall games. It's just so I don't have to.
You don't have to play musical chairs with your memory card.
Exactly. I don't have to, and also I don't have to pump the volume up on my TV just so it drowns out the sound of the Xbox spinning that disc. Sound like a racetrack taking off or something. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. So other than that, I don't know if you have anything else that you wanted to talk about, but we can go to the questions.
Yes, indeed. Let's dive right on in.
Oh yeah, before we go to that, I will mention this. I didn't forget that the contest is going on. It's going to go on from my side of the things. So the prizes, the luxurious prizes that the winner of I'm probably gonna put in the obscure picture there. It's going to be an obscure picture of a game. Of a game cover, so I'll probably crop it out in a way so you don't see the name, obviously. So I'll just I'll have that on there. It'll probably be the easiest contest ever if I did that. So I'll just crop out the title of the obscure game. It's very obscure, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, a scavenger hunt, as you will say. And I'll post that in this particular episode, and then we'll probably wait an episode or two and see if we get any submissions and announce the winner. So the winners of this particular prize, the winners of these will get the particular prizes here for this my side of the contest. I know you had yours. Did we find out what exactly you were giving away there?
I know it's a copy of Tomb Raider. I remember that, and I think I was. I don't remember.
I hear you. It's a Friday.
You got it. Yeah. It's no, but I do remember that it was like on episode 130 that we were talking about which games to give out, and unfortunately, because there was a hiccup at my bank, so I had to go through and basically get my account all readjusted. So I wasn't able to make purchases on Amazon to send off over to Steve Aroma. For his gift, so he's going to be getting it soon. I just had to get that taken care of first.
Very cool. So I will say that the prizes that include in this package will be digital copies of let's just announce this Expendables 2. Good flick. You get your Chuck Norris there. You get your Jean-Claude Van Damme there. The very actors we wanted to see in the first one, and now in the Expendables 2. And another digital copy of. It's a code for a digital copy for Judge Dredd 3D, starring Carl Urban, which is one of my favorite flicks to have come out there. It got me into reading some Judge Dredd, and really good action flick there. It doesn't have the most complex plot or anything. It doesn't really try to tell you, make you feel anything. But it's a very basic, straightforward plot. A lot of it was just the way it was shot and the way some of the action scenes played out. I thought was the ones that stood out the most, and just the cinematography was really good. So that's what really got me really to like the film. It's certainly a lot better than the Sylvester Stallone film, but it's not very hard to get it to top that. But it was good. I liked it a lot, and those will be the two prizes there that I'll be giving away once we find out a winner for this contest. So I'll just post up the obscure game cover. And I'll show this to CH too, see if he can figure it out after the podcast.
You got it, most definitely.
So we'll move on now to the questions here before I draw out this any longer. So let's go here with the first question of today's episode 133. I thought I mentioned. I know we brought that up in the beginning, so which is good. The first question here from our recently prize winner here, Stephen Rome.
Yes, indeed.
And his question is, do you guys suffer from gaming fatigue? And how long can you continue playing games without getting a headache or your eyes turning red and watery? Now, this is a good question here, CH. I've encountered this issue many times, especially when I play fighting games, because I have the tendency not to blink. Because fighting games are one genre of gaming that require a lot of focus and attention, and just because you don't blink, just because you think if you don't blink you'll get better at it, but it really isn't the case. Or if you think that you blink once you're gonna miss something, it's crazy. The logic that goes in your head when you're playing games. I think I'm probably around 30-45 minutes, and I don't really get headaches, but my eyes get pretty irritated because I don't blink, and they being a bit sensitive every now and then to kind of the dust and pollen with allergies, so they get a little reasonably red. Not as much as it used to anymore, because I take these allergy drops, so it kind of helps. But in terms of gaming fatigue, yeah, depending on how long I play and what kind of game it is, I'm usually in one position at all times, so I'm usually leaning on my right elbow. So it gets a little sore after a while. So that's my sort of gaming fatigue, and sometimes my back gets a little uncomfortable after a while. So it may feel like a workout to some, but it reminds me of that great quote that the representative for I believe it was Nike or something for Microsoft press conference years ago that said, if you have a body, you're an athlete. And that just got me motivated.
This man has never seen me work out at all.
I know, man.
Yeah, it's I would have to say gaming fatigue for me, it exists in kind of several different fashions. The first is physical. I can't play for too long. I gotta take a break just because I don't really have a comfortable chair, so I sit on my bed, just sitting up. I try to sit up straight because to make my spine straight, and then but I just always catch myself slumping over, getting into a groove of like a Halo match or something. And also, I don't have the biggest problem with straining my eyes, but I do feel like if I play too much, I feel like almost like eating too much candy, where I get sick of it. And absence makes the heart grow fonder, and definitely in the sense of like play the game and then give it a while, and then once you return to it, you can appreciate what you've been missing. Oh, yeah. And gaming fatigue, is it's a nice measured sort of ability to say, okay, how much am I going to be able to enjoy this by itself and not worry about sort of and being immersed in the experience, not just being overly saturated with gameplay and whatnot, and just like taking a break.
Yeah, I certainly suffered that recently when I was playing Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. That that last boss fight. It certainly it got me the quit playing games for a couple days and come back to it, because I wasn't mad at the game in particular. I was just mad at the situation that I couldn't beat it. It was just sort of that thing that sticks in your head that it's like, I can do this, but I'm just not getting it. I gotta do this. It's certainly one of those things. Recently I did the same thing with Rayman. I kept messing up at these certain points when you have to jump at a particular moment. It's like I don't know how many times I did it. I did it like 50 times, and then when I finally got it, it's like, it feels good. You have to do it a lot in order to get it just right. I think it was the same thing with Metal Gear Rising. I had to do that segment so many times, and it's like, all right, I know what he's going to do here. It's just like figuring it out. I never had to struggle this much with a game quite recently since Metal Gear Rising. That challenged me a lot, and that and Dark Souls certainly challenged me.
Yeah, in terms of games where even if they're not would you agree that even if they're not overly demanding games, that you should still take breaks from games? Walking Dead is not exactly the most visceral of games, and yeah, there's some quick decision sort of moments, but they're not. I mean, it's not like energy all the time, but it still feels like you should be able to take a break every once in so often, like maybe more than 2 hours. Just take a break, stretch off, get some water, go outside, like walk around, or
sure, yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, one of those things, and
you gotta eat, and you gotta get out and get a life.
Gotta eat
after some point.
Yes, indeed, and it's also that's also very important as well. You bring up a good point where it's video games can be fun, but every once in a while you need to break out of that funk and go out partying with your friends, or just have invite a buddy over, for even if just inviting a friend over to play video games, just like to have some social interaction over, and then so it's all about balance and everything in moderation.
Exactly. Okay, thank you for that question there, Steve Rum.
Thanks, Steve.
Have this final question here to wrap up the good old podcast here from Transmorpher.
Wunderbar.
Wumpity boo. If you're wise, you'll listen to me.
German.
So what is, she asked a question, what is your favorite platformer that you believe holds up well since its release date? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I probably brought it up already, but Yoshi's Island is one of my favorite platformers of all time.
Yes, indeed.
It holds up incredibly well. Its art design, its music, it's incredibly catchy. Even when I hum it, people who have played it will know what it is. Yoshi's Island, right? Like that one level. Yeah, I remember. I can hum almost a good portion of these levels, and that in Donkey Kong Country are one of my favorite ones that I played a lot.
Yeah, it's and I got, and just on that subject of the old games, and you can humming all those classic tunes, where it's like, okay, they couldn't exactly make huge orchestras to have these sweeping movements, so they had to have like really catchy melodies, and like the athlete level from Super Mario World, which is one just what an outstanding platformer, where it's like dun 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 dun. It's like remembering, like having that just going through, that makes the experience that much more engaging. Like if you took away the pardon me. If you took away the music from a lot of these classic games, then they would be really pale versions of what they really are, like really great stuff. There was an old Super Nintendo port of an arcade game. I think it was like two cavemen who were like one had green hair, one had blue hair, and they were like saving cave women from like giant dinosaurs.
Sounds like my kind of game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fine game. It was like the controls weren't exactly the most responsive, and it's kind of hit and miss. But part of the charm is that music that you have playing, just because there's no dialogue, there's no real story, so you need everything at your disposal. And for stuff like Yoshi's Island, Donkey Kong Country, Super Mario World, and all these other games where you have just just like this really classic, memorable music, it really does work. Where you have and especially like Rayman Origins, where it's these great this great music and this great art style as well. Like Donkey Kong Country, I love Donkey Kong Country just because it is. I love the character design, and the music is just breathtaking. The underwater levels, I'm not a big fan of underwater levels, but I will stomach them in Donkey Kong Country because of the fact that that the music is aquatic ambience is just outstanding. It is one of the just pinnacles of music greatness.
Yeah, it goes to show you how music can elevate a game. It's certainly on that particular level that you're not a huge fan of. The underwater ones, certainly elevate that game to a whole new level that you wouldn't have had that thought originally if it didn't have that just great orchestrated music. It just goes, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's and in terms of platformers that have stayed the test of time, it definitely seems like the ones that know the ones that understand its the mechanics of what it's presenting, as well as its own very distinct style, is that's the one that those are the ones that have stayed for the longest time. No one remembers Bubsy or was like Dangerous Gex, the gecko. Whereas all these different, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's pretty obscure.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's. I mean, these platformers are, they're kind of fine, and Crash Bandicoot is almost in this category where he's not really remembered as like a great platformer. It's more just like, oh, okay, it was, Sony's successful mascot, and
that turned his original kind of game into just a lot of just spin-offs of him being in like race car type games.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of like Donkey Kong Country, where it doesn't play like Mario, because Mario is kind of like running through levels as fast as possible and not really stopping to take out the enemies unless you kind of have to, because like there are constant enemies on your screen. Whereas Donkey Kong, it's like, okay, you can switch between two characters, so you kind of have different move sets. Donkey Kong, the aesthetics are a bit, are a bit more kind of rough and gritty. He's like in like a bungalow in the middle of the jungle, and like he uses barrels to to chuck at other people to take out your enemies, and it seems to be like a lot more empowering experience than Mario. And then you have like Sonic, where you have to, like the original Sonic the Hedgehog and Sonic the Hedgehog 2, where you are just like blazing through the levels as quickly as possible, after platforming segments, of course. But then you have like Bubsy, where nobody remembers that one because it was just so bare bones. Or Blinks the Time Cat. Do you remember that one? It was for the original Xbox, the thing, and they were touting like, oh, it has 4D graphics. Well, unless my 5-year-old self is also playing this game, no, they don't.
Yeah, vaguely. I remember that.
Yeah, it was pretty weird, and the games need to. It's definitely a combination of luck, first off, because a lot of times people will gravitate towards a game for almost like no reason. Great mechanics and a good sense of presentation and style, and great music also. Great music. Great platformers have great music because there's not a whole lot you're going to be doing except for jumping, grabbing some stuff, and just running across. So you better have good music to accompany that as well.
Well, yeah, because you're not going to be listening to any dialogue, so a lot of it's just going to be what's going on screen, and something to accompany that to make it more of a less kind of drab experience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the music definitely takes into a lot of account there. So yeah, thanks. That's a pretty good question there. Thanks, Transmorpher.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Transmorpher. And is there any, just a question out of curiosity, are there any platformers that come to mind that you think deserve either more attention or a sequel or something else that more attention?
That's a good one. I would have told you recently it would be DuckTales, but now that I hear that they're coming out with a DuckTales, I think remake or HD version, that was certainly one I would have added in there. Love me some DuckTales.
Yeah, it's I never played the original DuckTales, and I heard that that's one of the best platformers ever. So I'm definitely interested in checking it out. And who knows? I might try to get an emulator if I can't get the purchasing rights for that game. But that would kind of be the bastion of last resort. I would definitely say Psychonauts. Just because I keep forgetting that's a platformer because it's so many different genres of game that but one of them is platforming, and I have to say that it still stands the test of time, even though the graphics and character models aren't exactly the most crisp and clear. It's that sense of style and presentation, and just the gameplay works so well. The world is just so imaginative and creative. I just wish I had better luck with catching an audience.
Yeah, I would also say that I wouldn't say this game is terribly amazing or anything, but I think it deserved its few in there acknowledgments at least. The Duke Nukem Manhattan Project, the side-scrolling Duke Nukem game, I liked a lot. That was a good side-scrolling platformer.
Yeah, man. I mean, Duke Nukem. That's one of the most indestructible franchises in video gamedom. It's it could be 40 years from now, and they'll say, "Oh, we're going to make another Duke Nukem game." Okay, 100,000 people will be automatically on board. And there's something intrinsic about Duke Nukem where it's the male power empowerment fantasy, more than Serious Sam or any of the other ones, where it's just having so much fun with it that people that you gravitate towards that.
Yeah, it's also a series that doesn't come out on a yearly basis or anything, so it comes out in a brief kind of long periods of time in between each kind of any type of game, any type of game that it comes out on. It's not like it comes out on a yearly basis. It's always coming out in very very long stretches of time in between, where there may be something like an iOS thing, a console thing, or anything of that nature. It's certainly not a series that people are burnt out on, particularly in terms of how the schedule of which releases at. So it's not like something that people are clamoring on for a yearly basis, because people will get I think people would get pretty tired of it if it was that case. But it's something that it has its niche market, and then comes out in appropriate times, and it takes a break for length of time, because people aren't incredibly demanding it as well.
Now, which studio would you like to see make a Duke Nukem game?
Oh, Platinum Games.
Good answer. Very good answer. I was going to say Rocksteady, just because I thought that they could really appreciate the universe and the pacing and the gameplay, but that answer just blows mine out of the water. Platinum, damn straight, no question.
Or maybe have Swery work on it and make it a open world Duke Nukem game where he just interacts with townsfolk.
That is the. That would be the it was Swery, Suda51, who's the creative director of Resident Evil 4?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I just can't recall his name, but yeah.
It's not Takeshi Kitano. I certainly know that's not him. It's shoot, who is it? I gotta quick look it up.
You gotta quick look it up then. If that's the case. Did he also work on Shadows of the Damned there too? Oh, that's.
I think he did work on Shadows of the Damned, and it's just. And he also did the. Strangely enough, he was also the director of, the Goof Troop video game.
Oh,
where
man.
like it also has these interesting survival elements where you're trapped on an island with all these pirates, and it is just very, very interesting. It's Shinji Mikami.
All right.
And he's always the guy. Like whenever I see his name brought up in a conversation, like, oh, who's this guy? Who's this? What's this working on? I wonder. And then he did that, Vanquish, Beautiful Joe, Devil May Cry, Ace Attorney. Where it's all these different, strangely different properties, and I would just love to see them work on the next game.
Oh, Phoenix Wright. Damn.
Yep. Isn't Phoenix Wright on iOS now?
Love me some Phoenix Wright. Yeah, that's how I originally played the first game. It was on iOS. I played a good half of it, and ended up losing. Ended up having to restore my whole iPod, so I kind of lost progress on it. It's a good. I don't know how you would. I guess it would count as sort of a point click, because you're always kind of either talking to people and getting information from them, and then using that information later, and taking gathering notes within game and using them just like you would kind of in sort of legal proceedings and things like that. And obviously, some of it is a little bit overdone, in a kind of also sometimes really cool and gamey way and comedic way, which is all the times when he slams his hands on the desk, it's like objection. I love that. I love that. But yeah, Phoenix Wright is good. It's a good game.
It's strangely enough, that just reminded me of I think one of the 3DS iterations of Phoenix Wright allows you to actually shout objection into the microphone, so where you can it actually happens in the game, and that just made me think of another game which was Bomberman for the DS, and where you could just yell bomb. and you would drop a bomb, and so I just wanted to see that one guy who took it on an airplane and just went to an airport and just was when everyone was sitting down, just him going bomb, and then two burly security guards just tackle him from his from standing up. That would be just brilliant.
Yeah, I love the spin they'll take that on the news. A game causing a person to yell bomb on an airplane.
And what's interesting is Bomberman itself, the franchise, where it was one of those franchises that never was outrageously popular, yet for some reason it still managed to have its following and still has iterations to this day. And the crazy thing is it had that really weird reboot where it tried to go extremely dark. Do you remember that?
I haven't played it in particularly, but I've seen the cover art on it on surfing through the marketplace. But yeah, I'm not interested in that at all. That's one of the cases where the cover art is just completely drew me away from it.
It's one of the weirdest things, because it's like that and the reboot of Bionic Commando, where it's they try to go really serious, and you wonder to yourself who in the world is greenlighting these projects? What we need to make Bomberman incredibly dark. But you don't have Shigeru Miyamoto going, what needs to happen for a Mario game? Bowser kills Peach and Mario becomes a vampire slaying badass. It's it doesn't make sense. Why are you doing the why?
Yeah, in theory it sounds pretty cool, but in execution probably not. It wouldn't make most people happy. Let's say
no.
that.
It's I think there's a demo of it on Xbox Live. So if you're interested, please go on ahead and subjugate yourself to in one of the most interesting and I use that in quotation marks reiterations of a game I've seen in some time.
Curiosity has gotten the best of me. I might have to put it on my queue now just to see what this is about.
I would certainly recommend it. It's out of all the games that have been released for this generation, Bomberman was certainly one of them. Yep.
So yeah, on that note, I guess we call this podcast call this to the end here, buddy. So we're gonna keep it locked, ladies and germs, for the contest. I'll post the picture of the obscure game cover art in the show notes below, and submit those answers to myself, either on spill.com or through email, bladethumbspodcast@gmail.com. Perfect way to submit your answers there. And also check us out on the Twitter. I'm at Splinter47, and you're at CH_Gorog.
Yes, indeed.
Just to make sure we had that right.
It's and we're on iTunes, so find us there. Ask us questions on the Blythe group page. Check out the Better Gaming Bureau. We are currently trying to get something together with those guys, so watch out for us in the coming weeks, and just keep it locked and loaded to as you said before, to Blythe Thumbs, and be prepared for great things to come in the future. So just make sure that thank you very much for supporting us, and we hope to see you all again.
That is correct. So for you and I bid you all adieu. And thanks for listening to episode 133 of Bloody Thumbs Podcast. I'm Splinter47, signing off.
I am CH Gorog, and see you all later.